Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire. Joe Otto will be joining us momentarily. He just had to step out real quick, but I wanted to make sure we went live on time because today we just are trying out our new text message system. Lots of people have been complaining that Facebook isn't giving them notifications when we go live. Facebook's playing games with it. Same with YouTube. So we now have a text alert system that will send you a text message when we go live. So we want to make sure that it's all legit. Everyone's opted into it. We don't want to be spammy or anything. We just want to let you know, okay, Joe's back here. So let us know if you got our text message today. It should have just went out. And if you want to join the text list, I'm going to put the code in the comment section. You text FREEDOM to 89517. FREEDOM to 89517, and that should give you alerts. We're going to start using that system to give people alerts when we go live every day. Richard says on YouTube, he's saying that the text message alert system worked great. Carl on Facebook says he got it.
Awesome.
Nathan says he got it. So the way it works is everyone might not get it at the same time. It does kind of trickle out. So what we'll do is we'll start sending it out a couple minutes, maybe 1 or 2 minutes before we go live, because it can kind of trickle out for a few minutes afterwards. So great that it's working. We got a lot to talk about today. Big news. Today was supposed to be the day that the GOP was going to vote on those subpoenas. Remember that Joe? We talked about this last week. Facebook and Twitter blocked the Hunter Biden New York Post story. Yeah. Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Lindsey Graham promised. They said subpoena vote's coming on Tuesday. Well, today's Tuesday and there's no vote. They canceled the vote today. They're not holding it. Instead, they're pushing it back to Thursday. Thursday is also the day where they're going to be voting Amy Coney Barrett out of committee. It's going to be a very raucous day. Democrats are already promising that they're going to block a subpoena vote by either walking out and denying Graham a quorum or using any other type of parliamentary maneuver. There's tons that they can use to block or delay a vote. And it's getting stupid at this point because if we want to hold big tech accountable, we're running out of time to do it before the election. Even best case scenario, Joe, they issue these subpoenas on Thursday. That would probably mean that a hearing would be scheduled for next week, probably Wednesday. If big tech says, hey, this week doesn't work for us, we can come the following week, that's all of a sudden the earliest day they can do it is Tuesday because Congress doesn't work on Mondays. It'd be great to have that job. Tuesday, that's election day. So very easy to see how these spineless GOPers stabbing us in the back on this might actually make it impossible to hold big tech accountable before the election. So I'm furious. We warned that this would happen, and sure enough, it did.
Well, I think the issue that I have is that they're just not being authentic, they're not being honest with the American people, right? They're saying, hey, we're going to hold them accountable. Well, out the other side, you have lobbyists that are doing their jobs and literally trying to just stop it from happening. Say, hey, look, we give a lot of money to a lot of candidates. And if you know anything about these big tech companies, they give a lot of money to candidates, both on the left and the right. And they do that to create equilibrium of influence, right? And, it's a dirty part of the political game. It shouldn't be a dirty part of the political game. What should happen is that people should go back to their districts and say, hey, listen, what do you guys need? And then take that back to Washington and vote on things that help those people. But that's not what happens. Our entire country is just rife with corruption based on the fact that my guess is, and look, I want to give the GOP the benefit of the doubt. I really do. So I'm upset. Actually, I'm more disappointed than I am anything else, but I'm upset because it doesn't feel like it became a priority. And frankly, I don't know if you saw, Max, did you see the Project Veritas thing that came out yesterday with the Google engineer? Did you see that? Yeah. So, and for those of you guys that didn't see it, I'll try and find it, or Max, maybe you have it in the deal. But he came out and said, Google is always suppressing information, right? on conservatives, always. They just build it into their algorithm, and then it doesn't show up in those search criteria. And for them to be able to do that means that they're playing, as he put it, God. Google is playing God. So is Facebook. They're actually trying to control with this ideological battle that's going on. They're trying to control the narrative. Very, very dangerous, people. Very, very dangerous. Weakens your society when you can't think for yourself. When they basically are suppressing information and making a truth that's not true, right? Or maybe it could be true, but it's not true. The only thing that you can actually read, the only source of information. So here we are.
So the big news today is, let me find a link that we can use. Let's go to, I don't want to give CNN any ad revenue. We learned today that the DOJ is now filing suit against Google. Go ahead, Mr. Producer, and put up my screen. Oh, damn ads. Go ahead and put up my screen, Mr. Producer. Google Justice Department anti-Trump lawsuits explains. So, antitrust lawsuit explains. So the Justice Department is going after Google for monopolistic trade practices. Basically, the way Google operates is they are paying the cell phone manufacturers to auto-load Google onto Android phones as the lead search engine. They're paying Apple to make Google front and center search on Safari web browsers. Lots of really sketchy stuff. The way that they're weaponizing search, the way they're weaponizing their ad systems. So that just happened today. Google is now being served with, I guess it's a lawsuit by the Justice Department Antitrust Division to break up Google, or to, at the very least, stop Google's monopolistic trade practices. And it shouldn't just be Google. It should be Facebook. Twitter is probably not big enough. Facebook has enough hands in different parts of the tech world. Facebook probably needs to have that happen too. But excellent news today that this suit has been filed. It's probably going to take over a year for Google to get what's coming to them, and they're going to fight this tooth and nail. But if the telecom fights in the 80s and 90s are any indication, Google is much bigger than Bell was when they were broken up. So it's pretty obvious that if the law is actually applied to Google the way it was applied to telecom, that Google will be broken up, and the country will be better for it.
I think if Facebook gets taken out of their protections, right? So if Facebook becomes a publisher and not a platform, right? If they're able to give them or take away their exemption under
Section 230,
then the lawsuits on the consumer side, on the business side, on our side, will start flowing in on Facebook, and it'll start flowing in on the social media platforms. If that happens, it's going to be a whole new world, right? Because that means that social media platforms are going to have to become more balanced. They're going to have to let people get access to information and stop suppressing and shadow banning, and make sure they have access to information that frankly, that they're looking for. But I think, again, it's going to take 2 to 3 years for that to happen. Whether or not our society breaks down any further based on the social media experiment we've been under for the last 13 years remains to be seen. But I do think that we are at a very critical place in our society where if we don't hold them responsible, they're going to get too big, and then they're basically going to become the equivalent of the one that presses the buttons on the government, not the government pressing the buttons on the company. And I'm not sure we haven't gotten close to that already.
So I do want to get into the hearing, but I'm looking it up right now. Go ahead, Mr. Producer, put up my screen again. This is the current market share in the United States for smartphones. It's really interesting how the DOJ is going after this, actually targeting Google because of what they're doing with their smartphone, with making sure that their browsers and Google is front and center on smartphones. So Android, that's obviously a Google system. Android, it represents about just over 40% of market share in the US. And if you look at iOS, iPhones, 59.72%. So almost every phone in the United States is Android or iPhone. You have Windows phones, you have Samsung, you have a couple other options, but almost every single phone in the United States either runs iOS or Android. And for Google to be paying off the phone manufacturers who run Android and Apple to make sure that their search is front and center, it's absolutely monopolistic, right? It's absolutely trying to disincentivize people challenging Google's market share. It's to the point where when you buy a phone in the United States, 99.9% of us are all automatically driven to Google, and then Google serves us the ads. Google controls what we can find and search. It's really, really scummy. And then you look at what they're doing with big data. You look what they're doing with artificial intelligence. Facebook has Instagram. What's the other one? WeChat for Facebook. Lots of different hands in different cookie jars for these big tech companies. So very good news that the DOJ is going after them. Long overdue. Should have happened at the beginning of Trump's term, because unfortunately, if Biden were to win, I would expect this lawsuit to go away. But I want to dive into this because last night, I don't know if you saw this, Joe, but last night, Lindsey Graham was flying back to Washington, D.C., and he was accosted in an airport. And Lindsey Graham's Twitter, whoever runs his Twitter, pushed out this video with the headline of "We will not be intimidated." Mr. Producer, I believe we have that. Let's play cut one.
Look me in the eye.
Where are you from? Where are you
What?
from?
I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I'm not here to talk to you. I'm not here to talk to anybody
Why
who
does
will
it
listen.
matter where she's from? She's an American.
Well, I think
This
Seattle's a
affects-
good example of how things are getting out of
This
control.
affects-
No, Seattle's wonderful.
Sir,
I've
you're an
never
example
seen
of how
it in
things
my
are getting
city.
out of control, sir.
Senator Tillis.
You work for me, sir. I pay your salary, sir.
Where are you from?
It doesn't matter where I'm from. I'm from the United States of America, sir. Where are you from?
South Carolina.
You sure are. And you're going to make my children, my daughter, who stood on the shoulders of giants, you're going to take her rights away by voting for this woman who's a racist?
Well, I'm
who's gonna get
enthusiastically
rid of her?
going to support Judge Barrett.
Why?
Because
Why?
I think she's highly qualified.
She's not.
Highly qualified.
Highly qualified. So Graham pushed that out as Graham will not be intimidated. And it's funny, he asked, where are you from? Obviously, Graham is running for re-election, and if she's from South Carolina, he'd be more inclined to talk to her, but she's
Right.
from Seattle. He represents South Carolina. She's from Seattle.
Right.
He doesn't have any obligation to talk to her. He doesn't represent her. Very interesting. But that news yesterday comes in stark contrast to what we just learned, which is Graham saying he will not be intimidated, to now the announcement that the hearing has been canceled and rescheduled for Thursday. Mr. Producer, put up my screen. This is a headline from Politico. A headline from Politico reading, Senate panel delays vote to subpoena Twitter, Facebook CEOs as some Republicans waver. Really interesting. Politico, their take on this, and we can go and see. I don't think they name who the Republicans are. Lindsey Graham obviously wavered by not holding the vote. Lindsey Graham doesn't think he has the votes. Yeah, they don't name who the people are, so we can take this off the screen, Mr. Producer. They won't name the article, at least from what I see, doesn't name who the Republicans are who are wavering, but it's just stunning, right? We have a chance to finally hold these people accountable
Max.
for what we talked about on the show was the biggest in-kind political donation, illegal donation in American history, and they can't even get their act together.
So I want to show you something because I think that this will this should scare you. And I know I'm kind of we are. So I just sent it to you, Josh. A couple weeks ago, and we talk about intimidation, right? So what's happening with the loony left and what they're doing with people. So yesterday, I got a phone call. And it's someone who knows one of the candidates is running for state senate in Colorado, right? And I get this story, and I go, "This is the craziest story I've ever heard." And so what happened is that her daughter, so Lynn Gerber, who's running for state senate, it's a very close race. She's never been in politics. She just decided to be an American and run for office because she thought that what's happening right now is very corrupt, very corrupt. And so she's running for this state house district. The state senate district. And so her daughter drops her off at home. She gets in her car, drives to the train station. She wants to go downtown. She drives to the train station, gets on the train, comes back, and Antifa, 3 Antifa members did this to her car. Go ahead and put it up, Josh. So what you're seeing is Lynn's daughter's car was firebombed at the train station where they followed her from Lynn Gerber's house to the train station and destroyed her car in an effort to intimidate Lynn Gerber to dropping out of the race. and she's gotten attacked by this left-leaning machine of a rag magazine, which has perpetuated these lies about Lynn Gerber, and especially a guy named Eric that works for the Colorado Times Recorder. This guy's a horrible human being, and his entire organization is nothing but a bunch of Antifa hacks, in my opinion. And actually, there's a ton of anonymous sources that have come forward, Max, to talk about the fact that the Colorado Times Recorder is a surrogate of the Democratic Party in Colorado. And everyone's heard about this Project Veritas deal and what they did with Christopher Jacks. This intimidation is it's gone too far. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where
let's hypothesize. So there are people. That woman, disgraceful. Their car was firebombed. Mm-hmm. You have to imagine that there are Republicans who are equally fearful that if they do the wrong thing here, they will get firebombed either by Antifa or, I guess, metaphorically firebombed by big tech companies. You don't go up against the biggest companies in the United States without running some risk. So we know that at least one GOPer on the committee is not in support of the subpoenas. Let's go ahead and put up my screen again, Mr. Producer. Let's put up my screen one more time. So these are the members of the committee. You have Lindsey Graham, Chuck Grassley, John Cornyn, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, Ben Sass. He's one to watch. Josh Hawley, Tom Tillis, Joni Ernst, Mike Crapo, John Kennedy, and Marsha Blackburn. So the way this works is because the GOP has 2 senators more on the committee than Democrats, that means the only reason they would cancel this vote is that there were 2 Republicans on the committee unsure about whether or not they could support a subpoena against Facebook and Twitter. So go ahead.
How does that work? How does that work? We have 2 people that decided, and it has to be Sass. That little sniveling little, I mean, he stands up 5% of the time, and 95% of the time he caves to the Democrats. Why didn't he just go ahead and put a D on him, right? Just call yourself what you are. You're a progressive, right? You want to take away the rights of Americans. You want to tax them at a rate of 60 to 62%, right? That to you is normal. Let's just take more of what the American people have. Because, frankly, working 70 hours a week on the average for the average American isn't enough. Where mom and dad both have to go to work, kids have to go get raised by a school or raised by someone else. No, that's not enough. Let's take even more of your hard-earned money and we'll waste it and give it away to other places.
So let's try and figure out who these 2 are.
I think it's definitely.
Let's try and figure out who the 2 are. It's not Mike Lee, so we can take him out of it. It's not Ted Cruz.
No.
Ben Sass, probably. It's not Josh Hawley. He's leading the resolution.
No.
I don't think it's Tillis. I don't think it's Ernst. It could be
Crapo. Yeah. I don't think it's Kennedy.
I don't think it's Marsha Blackburn.
It could be Blackburn.
What we're left with.
It could be Blackburn.
No, I don't think so. She's pretty solid on this. Okay, she's talked about big tech before. So that leaves us Mike Crapo. Ben Sass, John Cornyn, Chuck Grassley, or Lindsey Graham himself.
Well,
those are the 5.
I don't think it's going to be Lindsey Graham. I just don't.
I don't think so.
I mean,
we can take that out. That's 4.
Lindsey Graham is a very, very look. There's been a couple times that he's taken the, hey, look, I don't think we should do this. Let's try to bring people together. But he's learned his lesson. He put his hand on the stove. He got burned by the Democrats. They used him as a mule in a couple of different resolutions. So I don't think he would. I think he's definitely got to the point where he recognizes that the left does not want to have compromise. They do not want to have ethical and moral standards that are created in some of the bills they create. So I can't imagine it's him. Now, with that said, could it be Grassley? 150,000%. Right? He's probably one of the most left-leaning Republicans that are on that committee, other than Sass.
Yeah. I'm just going through to see if he made any comment about it. So let's go ahead and put up my my screen, Mr. Producer. So this is Chuck Grassley. Let me find where the tweet is.
Yeah.
On October 18th, he said, it appears the FBI had contents of Hunter Biden's laptop since at least December 2019. What did they do to verify the info and take action? Why is it taking so long to learn about it? So the fact that he's talking about the laptop suggests to me that he would I wouldn't put him at the top of the list because he's talked about the laptop. He thinks it's important. He wants to get to the bottom of it. I think he'd be pretty Again, I can't see anything on his Twitter account about it, but I imagine that he would support looking into why Facebook and Twitter don't want you to see anything about the laptop. So
Right.
I think Chuck Grassley is safe. Cornyn, let's see if John Cornyn said anything. Sorry, I want to get down to the bottom, because if we can limit this to the 2 people, we're now down to 3 people. If it's not John Cornyn, then we know it's Crapo and Crapo and Sass.
And Sass. We know it's crap. We know it's Sass. We know it is. Oh,
So
wait.
we're just scrolling down on John Cornyn.
Nothing.
Let's see. I don't know. He's kind of been moving away from Trump. I'm nervous. It could be him. It could be him.
There's a pretty good chance it is.
Yeah, Mr. Producer, take down my screen. I'll put it back up if I find it. So it could be him. Let's see. What does it say, Joe? The fact that Republicans have a 2-vote advantage on the Judiciary Committee, and after Facebook and Twitter just basically put their finger on the scale to stop.
Continue putting their finger on the scale.
To stop.
And
They're still doing it.
And it's not a let's pull the fire alarm. We should be pulling the fire alarm. As people, we should be literally turning over some of these buildings. We should be yanking these guys, metaphorically, out of their offices. We should.
Yeah.
When did we become the people that, by the way, there's nothing we can do about it? When did we become those people? I mean, I feel like that's where we're at. I feel like we're at that place where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they do, because they can just get away with it, because we're just willing to just be cattle. And I feel like we're cattle. I want to stop for a minute. If you're actually watching this, I want you to hit the share button. We're going to unmask who these people are that decided not to issue the subpoena. You know, if Graham actually is involved in this, and you know this is strategic on his part, then great. Hopefully on Thursday they get to the bottom of it. But I think that those subpoenas have to happen, right? They have
I
to.
found it. I found one. Mr. Producer, put up my screen.
Uh-oh.
So this is from last week, October 15th, reported by an ABC News affiliate. So it's ABC News as a whole. You scroll down, and it reports that John Cornyn of Texas and Tom Tillis of North Carolina, both Republican members of the Judiciary Committee, said they support a subpoena. So right there, we can take Cornyn off, we can take Tillis off, we can take Grassley off. What we're left with is either it's Lindsey Graham himself.
It's not Graham.
It's
No.
Ben Sass.
It's Ben Sass, for sure.
Or Crapo.
And
Those are the 3 people.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you. First of all, we know it's Sass. We know it's Sass.
The only way it's Lindsey Graham is if he's someone who says something and does another, right? So the
But
reason
that's
I'm not willing to
typical
take
of, yeah.
It is. I mean, we've been hearing from him. We did a whole podcast when you weren't here, me calling out Lindsey Graham for saying one thing and doing another. I can't trust Lindsey Graham. Put in the comment sections whether you believe that Lindsey Graham actually supports the subpoena. I'd love to believe that he does. We'll go ahead. We'll take him out of it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on this one. That makes it Ben Sass and Mike Crapo. Those are the 2 Republicans by process of elimination, as long as Lindsey Graham actually supports it. Those are the 2 Republicans blocking this committee hearing. It's not even a committee hearing. They wanted to have an executive session to vote on subpoenas to drag Facebook and Twitter in to testify. So it's not even actually a hearing. Joe, why put your head into the rhinos? What do you think is driving them to want to protect Facebook and Twitter in their attempts to, in turn, protect Hunter Biden and the Joe Biden campaign? Why do you think a Republican would all of a sudden come out and not want to subpoena Twitter and Facebook on this? Why do you think that's the case?
I think that I think it always traces back to money, in my opinion. I think it just does. I think that there's economics involved. And, you know, leadership in our country for a long time has been in those positions of power for a long time. And it's always been tied to self-interest, never mutual interest, never sacrificial interest, never doing what's best for the American people, right? And there's some unlikely, I call them unlikely alliances that have been created inside of politics that from an optics standpoint make it look like from a theater that they stand on the American people's side. And then frankly, the lobbyists come in through the back door and say, hey, listen, we're going to support you in this. We'll give this much money to your campaign. Here's what we'll do to your IECs. And so that bartering happens on the back door that does not represent the interests of the people. And I actually think that that's what's happening. I think that's happening and continues to happen. And I think that the integrity of what both parties represent individually, like us in our community, I think that there's some value in it. But I don't think at the congressional level that there's much value in many of these congressional leaders.
So here's what I found. Let's oh no, I'm not interested. Daily News wants me to sign up. Let's go ahead and put up my screen, Mr. Producer. This is from 2016. This is an article about Republicans urging Donald Trump to drop out in 2016 after the Access Hollywood tape. And it's put out by the Daily News. And here's the sentence. Senator Mike Crapo, Republican Idaho, joined the chorus of Republican leaders to denounce his support of Trump on Saturday morning. And he encouraged Mike Pence to take over at the top of the ticket. So you know that Crapo, whatever you want to call him, is an anti-Trumper, never Trumper. He's one of those true conservatives who doesn't want Donald Trump at the top of the ticket. So that's easy. I'm confident in saying that, without any sources confirming, I'm confident in saying that Mike Crapo is probably one of them, probably one of the senators who is doing this to Trump to try and protect Facebook and Twitter. And then we have this story. Little Ben Sass. Trump rips little Ben Sass after Nebraska senator's diatribe against the president. I don't know if you saw this, Joe. Ben Sass over last week was basically, it was ridiculous what Sass was saying. Do they have it here? I don't think they have. They said that Trump kisses the butts of dictators, that he flirts with white supremacists, like the most ridiculous, stupid stuff. Ben Sass is out there repeating Democrat talking points. Why? Because Ben Sass wants to hold on to his power, and he believes, just like Crapo did in 2016, that Donald Trump is a sinking ship. Just like Paul Ryan did in 2016, urging Trump to drop out. They think it's a sinking ship. They think that the best way to preserve their power is to become anti-Trump in the last 2 weeks before the election. So it's really stunning. But I think that through process of elimination, unless Lindsey Graham is lying to us, I think we just found out who it is, because it has to be two. It can't just be one. If it's just one, they still have the votes.
Yep. So
I think it's two, and I think those are the two, Crapo and Sass.
Well, while we're on it then, Crapo and Sass, let's do this. I'm going to pull Crapo up.
And just so we know, we don't have to label this as explicit because we're just mispronouncing his name. It's not an expletive. Yeah. We're just pronouncing his name as Crapo. So no, we don't have to list this as an explicit podcast today.
I'm trying to find Crapo's phone number. So hold on a second.
Oh no. His campaign phone number? As long as it's his Senate office, we can share it. As long as it's his Senate office, we can't share his personal number. That would be very, very bad. Mike on Facebook asked, doesn't Graham have full Senate subpoena power? Interesting. So the Judiciary Committee granted Lindsey Graham subpoena power related to the Hunter Biden email situation. Before the email, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Ukraine. And generally, it was into like Obamagate, the attempt to spy on the president. So that subpoena power was conditional to make sure that it was on those specific issues. Graham can't just do whatever he wants. The committee voted to give him the authority to solely issue subpoenas on those issues. I think it was actually just Obamagate. He doesn't have subpoena power for Hunter Biden. So he can't just come out and just unilaterally subpoena them unless the committee would authorize him to do it without a full vote.
Right.
So that's the challenge we're facing.
I just put Senator Crapo's number in the comments so that later, after we're done, you can call Senator Crapo and tell him, you guys should see that there, it's 202-224-6143. That's General Crapo's office.
His Senate office. So we're not doxing
Senate
him.
Office.
We're just letting you know
Senate office.
how to contact him.
Yeah.
If you want.
That's not doxing him. How's it doxing him? It's a public number.
Well, Joe, in addition to doing that, we also have a link to our Fax Blast campaign today, which this helps support the show, helps support the channel, helps us pay the bills. It is a Fax Blast campaign. Our goal today is to send 500,000 fax blasts to Congress to pressure them to hold the subpoena vote immediately. So if you want to join that, we pinned it in the Facebook comments. We posted it in the Facebook comments just now. Join our campaign, send your fax blast, and that will, I guarantee you, that will include fax blast to Crapo's office and to Sass's office as well. So if you want it quick and easy and not have to get through the phones and the congressional operators, easiest way to do it, join our fax blast campaign at that link.
All right. So do we want Sass's number too? Should we put that out there?
Sure, put it out there too.
Yeah,
Some people like the personal touch.
So yeah, look, look, we'd love you to support the show, right? I mean, we do the show every day, right? And obviously we have shirts and we've done things like that, but you know, becoming a part of the family here, you know, this is we don't take any outside funding. We you know, contrary to anybody else's belief, these, you know, we stand up for the American people.
We're not Russians.
No, we're not Russians. But secondarily, you know, we literally don't care if we have to attack Republicans or Democrats, right? We are not party liners. Like we are constitutionalists. We are people that stand up for your rights. We think that, frankly, it should be more about the people, not less. And it doesn't matter what the topic is. If it's even popular opinion, we're going to talk about truth, and we're going to talk about holding people accountable, even the GOP. And the fact that they would not subpoena Google Twitter and Facebook, right? That we have already gotten this far, and we haven't already had a lawsuit against Facebook and Twitter, to me, just blows my mind. And again, it's the same thing that we keep going through. Why is Hunter Biden still walking around? Why is Joe Biden still running for president? Sorry, but I think the guy should be in cuffs. I do. So I think that.
Here's the interesting part of all this.
All right, so Senator Sass, by the way, Senator Sass is 202-224-4224. That's 202-224-4224, and that's Senator Sass out of Washington. Sorry,
so
Brian,
I just want to make sure that we know that we haven't confirmed this just through process of elimination, going through the members of the Senate Judiciary Committee who have publicly supported the subpoenas.
Mm-hmm.
We found the two that haven't. And you need to have two wavering in order to delay it. Otherwise, you'd have the votes. So it's entirely possible that one of these two men support it, just haven't said it, and that there's another person on the committee who says they support it but really don't. That happens in D.C. all the time. But right now, these are the two men who are the only ones who aren't on the record saying they support it and aren't actively pushing for this subpoena vote to happen. I want to, Mr. Producer, put up my screen. I want to talk about this because this isn't happening in a bubble. This isn't happening in a vacuum. And this is right from our Conservative Daily webpage. If you sign up for our email newsletter, you'll get these articles sent to you, so you won't have to go into it. This isn't happening in a vacuum, Joe. Twitter and Facebook have both sent people to testify before Congress under oath. And in 2018, Jack Dorsey testified under oath. He said, Twitter does not use political ideology to make any decisions, whether related to ranking content on our service or how we enforce our rules.
And we know that's we know it's not true because we have people that are coming forward with Project Veritas that work for these organizations that are saying we absolutely suppress people's voices based on ideological lines. We do.
Here's the next quote from Mark Zuckerberg. There is absolutely no directive in any of the changes that we make to have a bias on anything that we do. To the contrary, our goal is to be a platform for all ideas. Does anyone actually believe that that's true?
It's not true.
That was 2018.
But he did testify before Congress, which means he lied to Congress, which means he is subject to a criminal investigation as well. Criminal.
Yeah.
Not civil, criminal.
So here's the next part. Anna McAndrew. She is one of Facebook's public policy executives. And she is basically in charge of making sure that Facebook's policies take an approach that is protective of election integrity. Joe, do you know who she is?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm keep my screen up. Here we go. Put my screen back up. Anna McAndrew, 2003, a fellow for the Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowships for New Americans.
You've got to be kidding me.
So she's currently working on content regulation at Facebook. Previously, she was special policy advisor for Europe and Eurasia to Vice President Biden. So she's a Soros fellow. She worked as a special policy advisor for Vice President Biden on issues of Europe and Eurasia, which no matter how you define Ukraine, Ukraine is either in Eurasia or in Europe, right? It's in one or the other. So she advised Joe Biden on Ukrainian matters when he was vice president. She is a Soros fellow, and now she works at Facebook on content regulation, specifically with a eye towards election integrity. So there's no doubt that when Facebook decided to reduce distribution, like what they did to us, what they did to lots of people who were talking about the New York Post story, reduce the distribution, throttle us. There's no doubt she was in that room because that's her job. And she's a Soros fellow, and she used to work for Vice President Biden as a special policy advisor for Europe and Eurasia. This is incredible because the Hunter Biden story doesn't just speak to Joe Biden, it speaks to his advisory staff, because when Joe Biden was over there making demands of Ukraine, they were the ones that were briefed by George Kent and other people in the State Department that this constituted a conflict of interest. So she knew that Joe Biden going over there represented conflict of interest. She knew what Hunter Biden was doing because the office was briefed on it, right? So here she is deciding that no one's able to find out about it when she was involved in it. Like, of course, this is what she does. She doesn't want to hang with them. So of course she presses the button and stops the content distribution. Yep. You can't argue that this isn't political anymore when there's a Soros fellow, former Biden Ukrainian advisor making content decisions at Facebook. You can't argue. We can go ahead and take that off the screen now. You can't argue that it has anything to do with that it's apolitical.
Look, I'm gonna tell you there's a reckoning that's coming, right? And by the way, use that hashtag reckoning, right? It's coming, and it's coming in a big way. And if we don't stand up now, I'm telling you, there's not going to be much left, Max. I mean, we keep having this discussion about the smoking guns that happen, yet nobody gets arrested. I mean, literally, people on the streets, they just burn buildings and do everything else and steal people's businesses and loot and do all of the things that, frankly, are disgusting, right? Get a job. Do all of those things, and they don't get arrested. I mean, where's the accountability? We just turned it upside down. It doesn't surprise me that they're not holding him accountable. It doesn't surprise me we're not doing a subpoena. It doesn't surprise me that it's taken years for us to get to the point where where Google gets, in the same position I think that Microsoft got in, the same position that Bell got in. I mean, they keep moving the goalposts and they keep actually creating this rhetoric and this
and it's not just that they're big; they're also evil. Google's 100%. Slogan used to be "Don't be evil," and they've become evil. They've become unapologetically evil. Yes, if you are using big tech to help Democrats get into office, and those Democrats would implement evil policies, then yes, you yourself are evil. And we talked about this on the show yesterday. I just want to throw in that Anna McAndrew, before she was Vice President Biden's special policy advisor for Europe and Eurasia, aka Ukraine, she also worked as a senior policy advisor for the Obama administration's mission to the United Nations, and she was on the National Security Council, the director for Russia. So she's now making the moves at Facebook because she knows about Russia, apparently, and she was at the UN, and she was Biden's policy advisor, advising, among other things, Ukrainian policy matters. So it's absolutely incredible. And Ms. Producer, put this on my screen. This what really gets me. Put it on my screen now. This what really gets me. This is the news that came out this weekend. 50 former intelligence officials warn New York Post story sounds like Russian disinformation. Joe, former intelligence officials. Yeah. How could former intelligence officials, people who aren't there, possibly have any worthwhile opinion on it?
Well, it's fraud. I mean, this is just fraud. This is why news doesn't make a difference anymore. It's advocacy, right? It's advocacy. That's all they care about is advocacy. They're out there literally becoming activists.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Like just let's put this up. We have Hunter Biden's signature. Here we go. He went to Weeks Max, the Mac shop. Yeah, and he was drunk. And signature analysis has confirmed that it's a sloppy version of his signature, but there's enough in common with other signatures that there's reason to believe that it was him, right? It was just a very sloppy attempt at the signature. It's not him signing an official document. This is him drunk, dropping off laptops.
We have text messages, and I'm going to tell you, it's alleged. So I did have a conversation with someone who works for Fox. And there are some videos out there inside of this information that might.
Very, very gross.
I'm going to say might, because nobody's confirmed the age of the person in the video.
It might involve children.
It might involve children. It might involve children.
So,
and
go ahead, put my screen back up.
And my friend actually watched the video, and he goes, Joe, I don't know how Joe Biden's going to survive this. And he works for Fox. He works for Fox.
So how can it be Russian disinformation if the DOJ actually issued a subpoena to seize the laptop last December? Here's the subpoena.
Yeah.
From
And
the
they
US
knew about it
United States District
when
Court.
they knew about this when, just so everyone's clear, share this. They knew about the subpoena. They knew about this laptop. They knew about it way before the impeachment. Way before.
MacBook Pro.
Way before.
External hard drive. Here's them saying that it was delivered on December 9th, that the owner of the Mac shop was served. Right? We have that. We have Hunter Biden signing it off. Bill to Hunter Biden signing off on the fact that he was dropping his laptop. How is it Russian disinformation?
Oh, it's
no,
not.
Hunter Biden's
It's
a
not.
crackhead. And he dropped his MacBook off to be repaired, and he forgot to pick it up. And the requisite number of days passed. It became the shop's property because they'd already paid to repair it. And that shop owner, while impeachment was going on, told the FBI about it and sent a copy of the hard drives to Rudy Giuliani. Because at the time, Rudy Giuliani was managing Donald Trump's impeachment defense, which a big part of the defense was that Hunter Biden was doing screwy stuff, doing stuff wrong, and deserved to be investigated. And there was nothing wrong about Donald Trump saying he deserved to be investigated. So this isn't Russian disinformation. This is a concerned citizen all of a sudden realizing he had in his possession evidence that would have helped the president of the United States win a bogus impeachment fight. Right? Evidence that was so legitimate that the DOJ even issued a subpoena for it. It's not Russian disinformation.
Well,
this
and
happened.
it's so blatantly not Russian misinformation, but we're still having a conversation about it. We still have to defend their lies. They will tell lies. They know that they're lies, but they want people to believe it. That's what we're dealing with. This is an Orwellian type of environment. I mean, this is 1984. Truth. And by the way, I'm going to tell you how it ends. It ends. I feel like it might end in bloodshed. I feel like it might. Now, if you're just joining us, I want you to know something. So Facebook we're growing like crazy on the podcast side, so you guys can't see us on the podcast side. We do appreciate all of you very, very much. We're growing dramatically on the podcast side. Facebook has suppressed us. At one time, we were a couple thousand people that were watching us at one time. They because they don't do this, they don't change algorithms because they don't want you to see it. They are doing it. But you can actually text.
I just put it up in the comment section again.
Freedom to 89517. That's freedom, the word freedom. Text that to 89517. And before we go live, we'll tell you where it's going live. We are building a brand new platform that will allow for us to kind of deplatform the Facebook and actually talk to you. And this is just the easiest way because we can send you a text message. Inside the text message, we will also send you updates to tell you, hey, it's been uploaded onto Podbean and other areas. We just want to stay connected with you. We want to be able to just spread this truth. And then the last part of that is be an advocate, right? So hit the share button. Share with your friends. Have them sign up for 89517. Send them to Podbean. Send them to the Apple Podcast,
Google
and
Play,
Google Play, and all the other ones, right? The fact is that this grassroots, when we started this conversation 6 months ago, we were talking to probably, I mean, we didn't probably do it right. I mean, we came out and we didn't go to the people that we send email lists that we represent on the advocacy side to send stuff to, send messages to Washington. But we started out small, and now we're talking to thousands, tens of thousands of people every day. And Facebook and Google and YouTube have figured it out, right? They're like, yeah, we don't want this message to get out because this message is too powerful, and it might actually reach people and give them a little bit of truth. So, send freedom to 89517, and we'll keep you up to date there as well. We're going to continue to push on that, by the way, over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Max,
so I just want to. I'm gonna put up. I know. I'm going to put up an image real quick. I want to show people what we're talking about when we talk about growth. I wasn't going to do this, but we might as well. Might as well show people why we're pushing for people to make sure they download the audio version. Let's go ahead and put up my screen, Mr. Producer. So this is just from January of 2020. This is just the audio downloads from our podcast all over the internet. So you can see that January the audio version wasn't really kicking off. The video version was doing great, but we weren't really leading people to the audio version. You can see now that in October, we're 2/3 of the way through October, and we already have more downloads than we did in all of August. And we're going to well surpass September. September, we had just shy of 40,000 audio downloads. We're going to well surpass that this month as well. So when we say make sure you subscribe to the audio version, this is why we're seeing tremendous growth. And this is part of what we're going to use when we go after Facebook for their throttling of us. Because when we're growing on YouTube, when we're growing on the audio versions, and then we're not growing on Facebook, we're still being throttled, it's obvious that they're putting their finger on the scale and limiting our growth. So make sure that if you haven't already, there's links in the description to sign up for the audio version, subscribe. That way, if you can't make it to the online live stream, you can at least listen to it as you go about your day. But this is a key part, a key metric that we're going to use in our fight against Facebook. And you can go ahead and take that off my screen. Debbie wrote in the comment section. Yeah. Debbie wrote in the comment section that she doesn't get notifications for the Facebook, and that's why we're launching the text program. One of the ways that Facebook is punishing us, which and we can take that off the screen, Mr. Producer. One of the reasons the reason Facebook's punishing us is that we actually supported Kyle in Kenosha, and we put posts out in support of him. They said that supporting him is a violation of their policy, and they hit us with a community guideline strike. They have not lifted it. They were supposed to lift it after a month. It's still there. So they're artificially limiting who gets notified when we go live on Facebook. So the text message list, the text message notification is how we're going to get around that. Text FREEDOM to 89517, and you'll get an alert when we go live. Yeah, it's got to find a way around it, and that's the way to do it.
And frankly, we're finding more ways around it. We have more technology. We do have a company that does data, a lot of data, and we do understand the data game. We also understand the technology game, and we understand what Facebook's doing and what Google's doing, and we're ceding the lawsuit. We're just basically doing everything we need to do to be patient and take that information and make sure that we become the poster child for it. So, at some point we probably will come to everyone and say, all right, we're going to put a bunch of money into this. How can you guys help us? How can you support us so that we can actually file this lawsuit? So that'll be something we do come to our listeners and talk about. We're not ready to do that right now. We want to make sure that we have all of our guns loaded, ammunition per se, where it needs to be. And I'm really excited about the fact that that the lawyers that we're dealing with, they feel good about it, and we're bringing other organizations beside us that are I think going to be able to create a firestorm. And we have a big enough presence in other areas because we're in multiple areas anyway, that we're not afraid of the repercussions from Facebook or others because we don't lie. Yeah. I mean, nothing that we say, we don't lie. We just don't. There's not a lie that we're saying. Yeah. And
And I want to make sure everyone understands the text messages. We were testing it out today. The text alert, that was only for everyone yesterday who actually texted FREEDOM to that number. Moving forward, we also have 859 people who have signed up with their mobile numbers on our email opt-in list. So we're going to be moving those in. So if you already did that, we're going to be moving that in today to the same pool of numbers. So if you've already filled out, given us your mobile number, given us your email to join our email newsletter alert list, we're also moving those numbers in. So don't worry. If you didn't get it this morning and you have already given us your mobile number, we're going to be moving that in shortly. We just wanted to make sure that we tested it today. And it's crazy. I mean, we're talking about Twitter and Facebook censorship. We're talking about that. And this is a prime example of it. We go live, and even people who are top fans, people don't know, you become a top fan on Facebook by watching us every day, by commenting a lot. It's basically the people who spend a lot of time on our page making a lot of comments. So when you're a top fan, you're supposed to get notified when there are live streams on a page that you like. And even top fans on Facebook aren't getting notifications. So they're literally suppressing this. They don't believe that people should be allowed to watch our show. And in the past, we don't do it anymore, but in the past, we've paid Facebook money to build our audience. A lot of it's organic, but we have tens of thousands of people who have liked our Facebook page because we have paid Facebook to put ads in front of them. And the reason that Facebook gave the pitch that Facebook gave us was, if you pay us, they'll be organic followers, and they'll organically see your stuff, so you won't have to pay to get them in the future, right? So they took our money, we built our Facebook community, and now they are putting their finger on the scale to limit it.
Yep. Yeah.
So that, I think, is the best. I think that is the best one of the best avenues to take against Facebook, because that's how we can actually prove harm. Because the whole reason to build a community is so that you can reach them without having to pay to do it again. And for Facebook is also prohibiting us, Joe, from paying for any advertising. They're saying that because we mention Kyle and Kenosha, we're not allowed to advertise to grow our page. I am not. If you like our video, I am not allowed to go in and send you an invite to join our page, because we are not approved. We have violated their community guidelines. So I can't even invite people to follow our page. It's really scummy. People can't invite people to follow.
We're just ceding the lawsuit because, frankly, you know, we're gonna file the proper subpoenas, records. We're gonna get to everything. We're gonna make sure they get everything, right? And by the way, if you work for Facebook and you want to, I'll do the same thing Project Veritas did. You work for Facebook or Google, hey, send us a note. Send us a note, right? What is it, Max? Info at conservative-daily.com?
Info at conservative-daily.com. Send that to us if you have anything. We'll be happy to look through it.
I mean, we'll definitely work through it. And frankly, look, we will. I don't know, we have about 800,000 people on our email list that we talk to every day. You know, the story is going to get out. You know, these big tech companies are not going to be able to suppress, you know, the Hunter Biden stuff for very much longer, right? They're not going to be able to suppress the just absolute corrupt nature of our leadership. And frankly, you thought Antifa was bad? You thought those guys were bad? Oh man, piss off the hardworking Americans in this country and tell them you're stealing 50, 60% of their pay, right? And making them work 75, 80 hours a week while you get to sit there and eat caviar on the Hill and just make decisions for big tech and pharma and all these other guys. No, you haven't seen Reckoning yet. You haven't seen it. They haven't seen it, Max.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's seen it. They haven't.
It's incredible. So all that is moving along. We've been talking about it a lot. We got off topic today a little bit, but not really, because it's all about the same idea of tech censorship. The idea that someone at Facebook or Twitter has the authority just to push a button and all of a sudden we don't exist anymore. And if you remember, late August, we were pulling in 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people watching our podcast at the same time. Massive, astronomical growth. And they just flipped the switch and said, nope, no more. So this idea that politics had nothing to do with that.
Had everything to do with it.
It's
everything.
In other words, it's Crapo. It's Mike Crapo. Let's just say that. So we
guys,
don't have to make this explicit.
We're actually talking about, I just want to be really clear, we're talking about Republicans right now who do not have the spine to stand up to big tech, because somewhere along the line, here it comes, woo, woo, woo. That's the lobbyists that come in the back door and say, hey, listen, I want you to vote that we don't have to have a subpoena. Like, we'll make some changes. We'll do those things that you want us to do. Just don't subpoena us.
Well, I know that Facebook has a policy, and I think you too as well, that you're not allowed to dehumanize someone.
Right.
But I truly do believe that these Republicans in Congress have become so spineless. I think it would be more accurate to classify them as invertebrates. Because, and I don't want anyone to interpret that as me saying they're subhuman. I just don't think they have a spine. I think that they are invertebrates. I think they lack a spinal column. So it's people, if you want to know what we're all about, yes, we fight against Democrats, but more than half the time we're fighting against Republicans because they make a lot of promises, and we keep count, very seldom do they actually deliver. And in the grand scheme of things, when you're faced with the prospect of Lindsey Graham winning his seat in South Carolina this year, or a progressive challenger, obviously we want Lindsey Graham to win that seat, because the idea of a progressive taking a seat is insane, right? But that doesn't mean that we are supporting Lindsey Graham. We're highly critical of him. We're highly critical of all these people.
We're highly critical of everyone in government that's been there for 15, 20 years. I'm sorry, we are. At one point, we were really critical of, Texas. What's wrong with me?
We were so critical of John Boehner that he actually stepped down. Like we were one of the organizations that were pressuring him to step down, and he actually did it. So, yeah,
we've been very critical of Cruz. Guys, listen. The second that you want to just only support it because it's a football team, it's become a football team. That means it has no value to you at all. It doesn't support you at all. It doesn't do anything for you as people, right? You're just supporting them because they're a part of your football team. The football team still has to be held accountable, right? So you could say that it's an R or a D. Frankly, in the last 4 years, we haven't seen it. But before the 4 years, there has been some pretty courageous Democrats that sit right in the middle, right, that have come to the side of the Republicans, right? But now we've split that down the middle, and you don't see Democrats actually coming to the right at all. And it's sad because what it shows you is that we have injected too many, right, people inside of our political process that only care about themselves. And I mean, if we don't get rid of that, I'm telling you, Max, I'm worried. I'm worried that we are heading towards a massive civil war. Right now, I think we're in a civil war, right? But I think we're heading towards a massive civil war.
It's a cold civil war.
It's getting hot.
I mean, it's getting hotter. We showed that video of the woman having her car firebombed, running for state senate in Colorado. We see people. I don't want to put the images up because they're kind of graphic. One guy got his teeth knocked out at a free speech rally in San Fran. Another girl who was pro-Trump got attacked by the women's marchers, I believe in D.C. Or no, I think that was in Boston. Don't hold me to that. It was in a city, East Coast city. She gets attacked by women's marchers because she's pro-Trump. I mean, this civil war is getting hotter and hotter. It's beyond idiotic to me that the biggest wusses in America have decided that they think it's a good job to poke the bear, as it were, and to potentially prompt a civil war with the largest armed voting bloc in world history. American civilians own more firearms than every nation's military and I believe and police force combined. Like, that's how many guns are in civilian hands. We have more guns than conservatives have more guns than we have conservatives. Right? I mean, so this idea of like saying, yeah, we want a civil war against the most heavily armed voting bloc in world history, it just seems really, really silly. Joe, I'll give you the final word, and then I want to send a link to Mr. Producer of a Facebook video that we put up to play because it's too funny not to play. So I'll give you the final word as I pull up this video.
We are in a place right now where the left has basically taken away all rules. There's no ethics, right? There's no morals. There's no God in anything that we do. So I'm going to ask you this. If they go low, what choice do we have but to go low with them? And many of you would say that, Joe, nope, God tells me to take the high road. It depends on what part of the Bible you read. Because there's many times in the Bible that you have to pick up that sword. You have to sharpen that sword and keep it sharp. And I think as Americans, we're at that critical place where we have to keep our sword sharp and we have to be able and willing to use it. For too long, and I mean for literally the last 2 decades, we have sat on our couch and watched our entire society erode. They've taken God out of schools, they've taken God out of our society, and they put him in a place right now where secularism whoops, is something that secularism has become a religion. It is the religion. So I just want you to know that it's your responsibility to fight. It's not just our responsibility to get out here and talk to you about fighting. It's your responsibility to fight. It's your responsibility to get out and do something, to speak, to have courage. Courage is more infectious than fear, but action is the thing that will actually get us across the finish line. So God bless you all. And Max, and I'm really excited you're having a new baby.
My final tip. Yeah, my new baby's coming any day. Before we go, I have a couple of housekeeping that we need to talk about. Mr. Producer, put up image 1. This is what we're doing on Thursday. Since I can't actually drink because I have to drive my wife to the hospital at a moment's notice, instead of doing a drinking game, we'll still put out drinking game rules, but instead of drinking during the debate, I'm doing this hot wing challenge. 90-minute debate, so I'm going to do one hot wing every 10 minutes. It starts at 1,200 Scoville. It ends at 2 million Scoville. Anyone who's seen the show Hot Ones, it's kind of going to be modeled off of that, but we're going to watch Donald Trump viciously attack a dementia patient while we do it. instead of asking like A-list celebrities about their life. We're just going to watch a dementia patient get beaten to a pulp. So this is what we're doing. We'll post this again on our Facebook page. If you want to play along, God help you. It's going to be tough. But those are the sauces. If you have some of them and you want to play along, the only one I'm actually worried about, Joe, is the bomb, that 10 o'clock sauce. That is the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life. It is deadly. I am okay with every single one on that list, even the 2 million one, but the bomb is what destroys me. So that's what we're doing. I am
doing the alcohol part.
Yeah, Joe's going to do the alcohol.
So I'll be in Las Vegas. I'll be there for a charity golf tournament. And so, but I will be on the show. Hopefully, no, I won't be on the show on Thursday, but I'll be on the show later on that night. So we will have that.
Yeah. And Mr. Producer, let's put up image 2, just so people understand what Scoville units are. It's a unit of measurement in determining how hot something is. So a bell pepper is 0 Scoville heat units. A jalapeno is between 2,500 and 8,000. A orange habanero is 150,000 to 325,000. And then once you start getting to ghost pepper and above, you start getting into the millions. So when you see that hot sauce is 2 million, that is just shy of Carolina Reaper temperature.
I'll be drinking for you, Max. Don't worry.
Very hot. And so the last bit, not yet, Mr. Producer, turn that down. One more, we still have to play that video. I want to mention, polling is showing that most Americans do not actually have a close friend that is of the opposite political viewpoint. Meaning conservatives, the majority of conservatives cannot name a very close Democrat friend.
Chris.
And likewise, the majority of Democrats cannot name a very close conservative friend.
Chris.
And a lot of that is being put onto conservatives as the media is claiming that we're the nut jobs that are ruining America. But I want to play this. This is a compilation of just 6 of the many liberal freakout videos. I just want to play this because when they say that we're the problem, I see it quite differently. Mr. Producer, let's go ahead and play that video.
The people in history, pay attention! We're losing all democracy! Wake up!
So,
wow.
Is it any surprise that conservatives don't want to be friends with that? I'm just going to leave it with that. Well, that's going to be it for this edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. If you like the podcast, make sure you hit the share button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you comment on YouTube. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and then hit the bell for notifications. We're also, as we mentioned, we have the audio version of the podcast. Make sure that if you have an iPhone or MacBook, make sure you check out Apple Podcasts. Leave us a good review. We have some trolls on there lately. Make sure you leave us a good review if you haven't. We're also on Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and Podbean. As I said, we go live 2 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday on Facebook and YouTube. So make sure you like and follow and subscribe to those pages if you want to get those notifications. Text FREEDOM to 89517 if you want the text alerts. Very important. We also have a way for you to sign up for our email newsletter. That'll also get you there in the next couple of days. If you want to support the channel, there's a way for you to buy merch. And again, in the description, if you want to help support the show and put pressure on Congress to issue these subpoenas immediately, we have a fax blast campaign we're running today to force Congress to take action and approve the subpoena. So definitely check that out as well. Well, that's going to be it for this edition of the podcast. As I said, my name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Otto.
We caught you sleeping. And remember that the fight to take back our country clearly isn't over, but the only way we win is if we all stand up and fight together.